Hello there, good morning, and welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. My name is Robert K. Sarkos, and thank you for tuning back into the channel from wherever it is that you're watching the from. Welcome back from that incredible week of football that stretched back from the tail end of last week, where Michael Olise scored a stunner against Luton Town, although Crystal Palace lost by 2 goals to 1 to the sensational bicycle kick of Alejandro Garnacho against Everton that was then matched by Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang as he scored one of his own in their 4-3 victory against Ajax in the Europa League. It's been an interesting week of football. Rodrigo in the Champions League, just as he had done in the weekend in La Liga, again scored a sensational goal for Real Madrid. So it's been an interesting week of football where we saw Arsenal win 6-0 against Lens in the Champions League. Manchester United lost a 2-goal lead to draw against Galatasaray in an abysmal performance by Andre Onana, while Manchester City had to come from 2 goals down to beat up against Young Boys in the Champions League. Newcastle are still mourning over that, wrongly awarded penalty, in my view, against PSG that saw them share the spoils with Paris Saint-Germain by 1-1. So it's been an interesting week of football, while Dortmund on the other side had beaten up against AC Milan by 3 goals to 1. Never mind that Samuel Chukwueze had scored a sensational goal in that one. So it's been an interesting week of good football there. Brighton winning in the Europa League just as well as West Ham. So very interesting week it has been. But like I said, let's get back to the Premier League for match day 14, where we have some interesting action, including Manchester United against Newcastle, while Man City will face Tottenham, who have lost 3 games in a row. So here is the run of fixtures that will be coming your way this weekend for match day 14, starting on Saturday and Sunday. This time around, there will be no early kickoff, with all games slated to kick off at 6 p.m. That is East African time. So Arsenal will host Wolverhampton Wanderers at the Emirates Stadium. That's at 6 p.m. while Brentford will be at home against Luton. Burnley will host Sheffield United, while Nottingham Forest will be at home against Everton. Newcastle United will host Manchester United at 11 p.m. while the Nottingham Forest game kickoff is at 8:30 p.m. And on Super Sunday, incredible action coming your way, with Bournemouth hosting Aston Villa, while Chelsea will be at home against Brighton and Hove Albion. Liverpool host Fulham, while West Ham United will host Crystal Palace. Manchester City will be at home against Tottenham Hotspurs. So that's the run of fixtures that is going to be on your schedule this weekend as far as the Premier League is concerned. Now, let's pick things off deeper with this Arsenal side, who are the leaders of the table, with Manchester City in the second, Manchester City in second, Liverpool in third, while Tottenham find themselves in fourth in that table run, with Aston Villa in fifth, Manchester United in sixth, and then others follow around there. Then, so it's Arsenal versus Wolves. Now, Arsenal did manage to beat Wolves home and away last season, and they find themselves in a little bit good run of form, having beaten up against Lens by 6-0 in the UEFA Champions League. Kai Havertz on the score sheet, Gabriel Jesus, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, Martin Odegaard, and then Jorginho with a penalty in that incredible rout against Lens. But before that, in the Premier League, they had beaten up against Brentford by 1-0. Kai Havertz, a second half substitute, on the end of the score sheet there in that one. And then earlier again, before that, they had managed to beat up against Burnley by 3 goals to 1 in that game that saw Pablo Vieira be given a straight red card in the 83rd minute for his dangerous tackle or high boot against the opponents. And when you rewind it a little bit back, then they had lost to West Ham, but in the Carabao Cup, and then they did also lose to Newcastle by a goal to nil in that controversial loss at at St James's Park. So that's been their run of form, and they are looking to win their third consecutive Premier League game of the season for the first time in the 2023-2024 campaign. Yes, this Arsenal side, a bit of news of going around. Of course, they will be without some of their key players in Thomas Partey, Emile Smith-Rowe, and Durant Timber, all who are injured, while, like I said, Pablo Vieira remains suspended for that red card he received against Burnley, but nonetheless, he is still also injured, having undergone a groin surgery in the course of the week, leading to that Lens game. So, they'll be without those players, but I don't think they're enough to stop them from fielding a very strong team, given that all their players are back. We saw David Raya in the Champions League return to action after missing that weekend game with Ramsdale starting in goal against Brentford. So, reason being because David Raya is on loan from Brentford to Arsenal. So, we do expect David Raya to return in goal at right back. Tomiyasu has in recent times come ahead of Ben White, so we may see after him creating double assists in the Champions League, he could start again at right back. Left back Zinchenko remains uncontested. I don't think Jakub Kivior will be the man fielded for this one, so I do think it will be Zinchenko in that. And then the partnership of the central defense is William Saliba and Gabriel Magalhaes, unless otherwise in midfield we expect Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard. Now the question will be, does Kai Havertz start or not? Or Leandro Trossard gets the nod in that midfield three. But it could be Kai Havertz for this one after that brilliant performance in the Champions League. Maybe he gets rewarded. Never mind that it will be at the cost of Leandro Trossard, who has equally been good this season. And then on the flanks, we do have Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, and then Gabriel Jesus leading that forward line with Edin Nketiah, unfortunately, having to come off the bench. So that's what I do think on that side. But Arsenal will have also to be worried about this Wolves side. Despite their disadvantages, especially on the VAR decisions that haven't gone their way in games against Manchester United, Andre Onana clattering into Sasa Kalajic and then they were not awarded a penalty. Then they had a very contentious penalty awarded against them in that 2-2 draw against Newcastle. Then 2 penalties were awarded against them in their 3-2 loss against Fulham on Monday Night Football. And especially the last penalty that was awarded against them in the 94th minute, William Borges da Silva converting that one to win the game for Fulham, while earlier on Iwobi had scored in that game. Then you also had Wang Hichan also score a penalty in the 50th minute. So Arsenal will have to worry about the likes of Pedro Neto. He's been quite incredible. Matthias Cunha, very, very wonderful player in that Wolves team. Of course, Nelson Semedo will makes that those ones from the right wing back and all those things. Some key players that could really hurt this Arsenal side if they do not mind their backlines, especially Pedro Neto, Matthias Cunha. Yes, of course they won't be without their suspended midfielders in Mario Lemina, very incredible player, and João Gomez. So I do think that will hurt their chances, especially in winning that midfield battle. But it's not to say that they won't have a replacement. It's usually in the forward that they tend to give these big teams a bit of hard time. They did beat up against Manchester City by 2-1. They did beat up against Tottenham Hotspurs by 2-1 again this season. So beautiful football. They tend to give these so-called big teams a lot of hard time. They have it in them to try and hurt them. But they have not also performed very well, especially away from home. They did lose against Sheffield United in their last game. That's away before losing to Fulham, again away at Craven Cottage by 3-2. So away from home, they tend not to perform very well, but they do have it in their player power to hurt the big boys as they may consider themselves to be. So that's the picture we expect at the Emirates Stadium. My prediction of Arsenal will walk away with this one, not easily, but perhaps a 1-0 victory or a 3-1 victory could be on the cards. Arsenal is quite very good defensively, and although their attack has not been that electric, teams have been playing the low block against Arsenal, and we saw what happened in midweek when you do not play a low block. When you try to attack them and leave yourself open, they can really smash you up. The other fixture we'll be looking at in depth is this Newcastle game at 11 p.m. against Manchester United. Again, another beautiful, beautiful game of football that will be coming on your screens. This season, Newcastle have already beaten up against Manchester United at Old Trafford by 3-0 in the Carabao Cup. So we do expect Newcastle's Ed Howe to quite, prove a stubborn opponent for this Manchester United's side, who have 8 wins somehow through their name and 5 losses in the opening 13 games, whereas Andre Onana has had some very poor performances in the Champions League, coming against Galatasaray and another against Bayern Munich in the opening game of the Champions League for their group. In the Premier League, he's quite proven himself that he can be an incredible goalkeeper, putting on a number of saves, and I think he has up to 6 clean sheets. That's against Burnley, against Fulham, against Luton Town, against Everton, for some of the clean sheets that he's managed to keep in that run of fixtures for the Red Devils. Again, Manchester United do have the injuries to contend with, but I understand Mason Mount is back in training. Lisandro Martinez is still absent, as well as Christian Eriksen and Casemiro. So you do expect Kobe Mainoo to come in that midfield. Very, very incredible performance from him against Everton, by the way, or Sofiane Amrabat there to start with, alongside Scott McTominay. Whichever manager Erik ten Hag chooses may be the partnership that Newcastle side will have to contend with. However, some Manchester United are still not convinced, or still find it troubling that Erik ten Hag is sticking with that defensive duo of Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, who my friend Paul Chigozi, an ardent Manchester United fan and KCCA fan, thinks has been abysmal this season. Well, I could say his options have been quite limited, especially in the absence of Lisandro Martinez, who seemed to be the pivot of his backline. He's had to either switch between Lindelof and Maguire, or Maguire and Johnny Evans, and then sometimes Rafael Varane, if fit enough, chipping in there. But Luke Shaw is back in this team. That left back line will be quite strong. Aaron Wan-Bissaka did start in midweek, but also Diego Dalot is available for his choosing. So Andre Onana will have to, put on a good performance if they are to stop this Newcastle side that can be quite very threatening, especially in the offense. We've seen them beat up against Chelsea by 4-1. They've beaten up against Arsenal. They've beaten up against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup by 1-0. Never mind that they did lose to them by 0-0 in the Premier League. So they are quite an incredible side. So Manchester United is forward. We all know Rasmus Højlund is yet to get the ball rolling in the Premier League. Bruno Fernandes had a very incredible strike there in midweek against Galatasaray. I just hope that he can continue to put on such kind of performances going forward. Then Anthony Martial against Everton, so brilliant player. Then you have the likes of Marcus Rashford, who of course missed a midweek game through suspension, but will be available for selection against this Newcastle side. Of course, he's yet also to find his footing, but he was a good performer against that Everton side, scoring the penalty and then I think creating that wonderful assist for Alejandro Garnacho's bicycle kick goal. So they do have that bit of inspiration that they managed to beat up against Everton. So I hope they can carry that and forget their midweek troubles in the Champions League and bring that form to Newcastle and try and pick a result. It won't be an easy game because Newcastle on the other side, of course, they will be without Joe Willock. He is still injured. Sean Longstaff also injured, among others. Of course, we all know the problems of Sandro Tonali serving his ban, but that doesn't mean that the likes of Miguel Almiron, Callum Wilson, Alexander Isak, Anthony Gordon, Bruno Guimaraes, in midfield there won't be available to hurt this Manchester United side. And we all know they are very good and strong defensively. Nick Pope in goal has been quite good this season as he was last season. You have Captain Kieran Trippier there making things happen. You have Fabian Schär. You have a number of good players in that Newcastle defense that are really performing well, especially in the absence of the likes of Steven Botman, who they've had to play a couple of games without. So they still have the player power to hurt any big team, including this Manchester United, who they know they can beat. So that's another incredible game of football that will be coming on your screens on Saturday. Like I said, 11 p.m. sharp will be the kick-off time, while Nottingham Forest versus Everton is at 8:30. So do not forget about that. Then moving on Sunday, Liverpool versus Fulham, another promising game. Of course, Liverpool are quite wonderful this season. They're playing some really good football. I'm particularly attracted to this player, Dominic Szoboszlai, who had a very incredible performance against Manchester City. Find him a very, very brilliant player for this, Liverpool side. At the age of, I think, 31, Mo Salah is using his body sparingly, so he knows when to make his runs. He knows his better positioning himself. He's no longer electric, game in, game out, or minute in, minute out throughout the game, but he picks his moments rightly and can hurt any side. So, whereas Fulham were 3-2 winners on Monday night, I do think Liverpool could nick this one, but we won't dwell much on that one. And then you have Chelsea host Brighton. Now, Brighton and Hove Albion do come in this game on the back of a Europa League victory that saw them progress to the knockout stages in that competition against the Chelsea side, who did lose by 4-1 against Newcastle. So you're quite not sure whether it is the Chelsea that played Manchester City in that 4-4 draw that will show up against Brighton, or the one that lost to Newcastle by 4-1 in the subsequent weekend. Quite a tough one to call, because both sides can be good on any day and can hurt anybody. And as we all know, Brighton are not strangers against beating on these big teams. So it's another game of football that promises to be entertaining. I think you should look out for that one. For that kickoff will be at 5 p.m. And then the big game on Sunday, the big game on Super Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Manchester City against Tottenham Hotspurs. Like I did mention, Tottenham Hotspurs come in this game on the back of 3 consecutive losses. That's against Aston Villa, against Wolverhampton Wanderers, and I think it's just one off my head. But 3 consecutive losses for Ange Postecoglou there, and he did say that he can't guarantee that they will win, but he said they will cause them troubles. This brilliant Manchester City side, who will be welcoming back Mateo Kovacic from injury, but also Matthias Nunes will be a doubt for this one. John Stones is back and will be available for selection. You have Rodri, Joško Vardiol did provide a good assist in midweek. You have Ruben Diaz in that defense. Of course, Ederson Morales didn't even start in midweek; he was rested. So they have all the good players. Nathan Ake in that defense provided a very brilliant assist for Erling Haaland in that 1-1 all draw against Liverpool. Rodri in midfield, usual suspect, very incredible player. the absence of Kevin De Bruyne, who they haven't missed that much. You have the Bernardo Silva there. You have a Phil Foden in there, who have quite put on impressive performances during that spell. Erling Haaland up front can't stop scoring against any side. You have Julian Alvarez playing in his support. You have Jeremy Doku there, all waiting to hurt any opponent that they may face. Jeremy Doku did have also a wonderful game against Liverpool. So it promises to be an entertaining game against a Tottenham side that are dealing with a couple of injuries. I think they have up to 10 players absent, including but not limited to the likes of Ivan Perisic, Rodrigo Bentancur, of course, we know James Maddison with that ankle injury that for which has been continuously reported that could keep him out until January. You have a Pape Matsa, he's been injured. Then you have a Christian Romero who is serving his last suspension, so he won't be available for this one. They had issues with Mickey Van de Ven in that defense. You have a Richarlison that is injured, so they have a really long list of injuries, and whereas the captain Hugh Sung-min has been available, he hasn't had quite the necessary support in terms of the composition of players to help him guide this team to victory in those 3 games that they've lost. So then, of course, you have a Brennan Johnson, still a young player. You can't put too much on his shoulders, as incredible as he is. Then of course, Manuel Solomon is out injured. So Yves Bissouma will be back in that team. You have a Pierre-Emerick Hojbjerg. You have an Eric Dyer who has been given to starting defense. So Udogi is there, but nonetheless, I do not think that Tottenham come in this game with a squad strong enough to put enough contest that can pick a decent result against this Manchester City side, especially when they are playing at the Etihad, where they've won, I think, about 21 games. They're unbeaten in about 21 games. So Pep Guardiola will fancy this one, especially to try and show Andy Postecoglou that, boss, you're still new in this league, and I'll be showing you what's up. So it promises to be a very entertaining football, but I do not think that Tottenham have the necessary tools in terms of player power to contest against a brilliant Manchester City side, especially given that long list of injuries that they do have to contend with. If you disagree with me, please let me know in the comment section. But that's the picture for matchday 14 that will be coming on your screens this weekend. So keep it locked to the channel. Yes, I know videos have been less and lesser, and our responsibilities elsewhere keep on calling. But we shall try and push this thing going. Just keep it locked on the channel. Do not miss any videos. Do not forget to subscribe, comment, like, and share, and also invite your friends or our colleagues to come and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for taking the time, and I'll see you next time. Stay blessed.